Today's headline concerns a controversial fictional entry mandate. Individuals must undress for physical inspection, with non-compliance leading to further punitive measures. Dr. Ramirez, can you break down the protocols described and their underlying logic?
Certainly. The scenario describes a forced exposure and inspection process, escalating to corporal punishment for those who don't meet arbitrary physical criteria. This mirrors tactics historically used to assert dominance and compliance, often justified by claims of public health or security.
That's reminiscent of privacy violations in authoritarian regimes. Are there real-world parallels where similar public health justifications have been misused?
Absolutely. For example, in the 20th century, some governments mandated invasive tuberculosis screenings or enforced quarantine by force, often targeting marginalized communities. These measures, while argued as necessary, frequently crossed ethical boundaries in practice.
So, this fictional scenario amplifies those real abuses to an extreme for effect. Let's talk about the implications for individual rights in such a system. A striking element is the compulsory collection of DNA, which is then declared military property. Dr. Ramirez, what are the ethical and legal risks of such policies in actual governance?
The forced appropriation of genetic material raises immense privacy and consent issues. In reality, military or state ownership of personal DNA could enable surveillance, genetic profiling, or even manipulation, as seen in past abuses like the Tuskegee syphilis study, where subjects' autonomy was ignored.
The script claims this DNA is used to manufacture obedience medicines. Hypothetically, how plausible is that? And what ethical debates would it spark?
While we lack current technology to create obedience drugs from DNA, the premise echoes bioethical debates about pharmacogenomics, tailoring drugs to genetic profiles. Weaponizing such advances would cross all accepted research and human rights boundaries.
Transitioning from theory to practice, are there safeguards in place in democratic societies to prevent such abuses? Another fictional device here is the punitive chip. Non-compliance codes your chip to glow, marking you for exclusion and harm. Dr. Ramirez, what's your take on such digital enforcement mechanisms?
Digitally marking individuals for punishment is a chilling escalation of social control. In real life, we've seen milder digital shaming, such as China's social credit system, where scores affect access to services. Making a person's disobedience physically visible could incite mob justice.
Could such technology ever be justified under public safety arguments? Or does it inevitably lead to abuse?
While public health emergencies justify some monitoring, visible punishment chips would violate due process and basic dignity. History shows that highly visible stigmatization like scarlet letters or apartheid passes almost always leads to discrimination and violence.
Given these precedents, how might societies resist or regulate the creep of such punitive tech? To conclude, the scenario demands total obedience under the guise of health and safety. Dr. Ramirez, how do we balance collective welfare and individual rights in public health policy, avoiding dystopian overreach?
Effective health policy relies on public trust, transparency, and informed consent, not coercion or humiliation. The World Health Organization, for instance, emphasizes voluntary participation and proportionality, recognizing that draconian measures backfire by eroding public cooperation.
Are there any historical lessons for policymakers on the dangers of conflating obedience with safety?
Certainly. The aftermath of forced sterilizations or unethical experiments shows how prioritizing compliance over ethics leads to public backlash, legal challenges, and generational trauma. Safeguards, like independent oversight and legal recourse, are critical to protecting rights.
Thanks, Dr. Ramirez, for illuminating how even fictional scenarios can spark urgent conversations about ethics, technology, and public health policy.